On the day this video is set to go live, Ninjago will be celebrating 15 years since the franchise began. Ninjago first launched on January 14th, 2011, and has managed to continue for a full decade and a half. To put this into perspective, the recommended age demographic for Ninjago is 7 years old plus. So if a 7-year-old started watching Ninjago when it first released, that kid is 22 now. Statistically, kids usually start school at 7 years old, which means season 1 got them through first grade, while waiting to see if Kai would become the Green Ninja, got mad it was that punk Lloyd in the 2nd grade, 3rd grade they witnessed the final battle, gave Chima a shot but ultimately gave up on it because it wasn't Ninjago, 5th grade, they saw commercials for the reboot and got really excited, was traumatized by Zane's death their first year of middle school and had a bad middle school ever since because middle school sucks, and fast forward a few years, they're currently working their way through college. That's how long this franchise has been running. Okay, so who did I call out? Despite all of this, there's a bit of an issue when talking about Ninjago's humble beginnings, in that even if you are that college kid I was describing earlier, you may not have experienced Ninjago's actual beginning. Indeed, because even I, as someone who has been following the series ever since the beginning, well, almost since the 7th episode of season 1, but my mom wouldn't let me watch it. I still haven't forgiven her for that, but look how that turned out, Mom. But even if I had watched that first episode, I still wouldn't have been with Ninjago ever since the beginning. That's what I tell myself every night, as Ninjago has actually started a few months before that, and despite how we in the community might know about it, I honestly wouldn't doubt a lot of casual fans don't even know about it, no matter how dedicated they think they are to this franchise, and it's not really any fault of their own. Because for some reason, despite LEGO's attempt at trying to make the series as accessible as possible to everyone via uploading tons of episodes to YouTube, making live stream marathons playing episodes 24/7, or just trying to get the series across multiple streaming platforms as possible, which they still fail at because the Oni trilogy and Crystallize currently aren't on Netflix. I love streaming! Not even Day of the Departed is on Netflix anymore, and they even got rid of the Happy Birthday special! Thanks, Netflix! But even ignoring those, LEGO has barely made an effort to get the first episodes accessible in any way, not listed in the traditional show as a prologue to it or even just a part of season 1, nothing. In fact, the only connection that a lot of people might have to the pilot, including myself for a while, was the episode where they time traveled back to the pilot in season 2 episode 6, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, thinking that it was a completely original episode, going over the ninja's origin, but the truth is, it's just plagiarism. It's so weird that the pilot episodes are so inaccessible, because while most pilots are usually unimportant, in fact just being the first episode with cheaper animation, as we saw with the Family Guy pilot that was uncovered earlier this year, Ninjago's pilot is literally the origin of the ninja being formed, when they first met and we were introduced to these characters.
Complete the training course before I finish my tea.
You must complete the course before I finish my tea.
I burnt the tea.
The pilot is written more like a prologue to season 1, rather than just simply being complimentary material, getting its own LEGO sets and being referenced constantly across season 1. Heck, it was even referenced recently with Dragon's Rising with the appearance of Cruncha and Knuckle in the underworld. Which, by the way, sorry I got their names wrong in the Chima video. I was so tired at the end of that video's production, forgot their names, I'm sorry. But even then, the Tornado of Creation originated from the pilot, which was referenced all across the series, even being the finale to the Oni trilogy. Garmadon brought back the skeletons to save the ninja and Lloyd from the snakes, which felt like this big moment that the writers seemed to care about. But most of the audience probably didn't know the connection and probably wondered where this skeleton army came from and why Garmadon just had them on speed dial, I guess.
Why would they fight beside you? You betrayed them and Sabakai long ago!
Because everybody hates snakes!
And as I said, it was even time traveled back to in season 2, as if it was fan service. Sure, maybe when the seasons was being released close to when the pilots were, maybe there was more of a chance people managed to see it. But even then, As I said, as a kid, I didn't really see the pilot until I managed to come across it on demand on the LEGO channel. I want to say around the final battle arc of season 2. And even then, it was the 4-part version, and I can't even remember if I saw all of it. But when I got older and eventually dug up the old pilots, it was honestly kind of a weird experience seeing it after only being familiar with it because of Wrong Place, Wrong Time. It's like, you know that feeling when you've only heard a song out of context, such as in a meme or something like a video game track, and then you just randomly pick up the game on a whim and then hear the song in context? It's weird, right? Like a while ago, I randomly picked up Super Mario RPG Remake on Switch, and what do I hear when I complete my first fight? But I figured today, why not go ahead and return to the pilot and give it some attention for its 15th anniversary, to see where this cult of ours got started. Let's see if Ninjago was always a hit, or maybe if the pilot had some growing pains. Before we start, I actually didn't even realize until now that the pilots used the same title card as Season 1, just colored red, which I think does look pretty cool, but unintentionally reminds me of the title screen of FNAF 4. The pilot opens to where it all began. We meet Kai and his sister Nia, owners of a blacksmith shop, trying to run it after the parents' admittedly vague reason for not being here. I'm pretty sure from the way they talk about this, they wanted to imply that Kai and Nia's parents were passed, but thankfully, they left this very vague so this wouldn't result in a retcon later in the series. Anyway, they meet a strange man, wanting something for a ninja. Kai blows up at him because the shop is for weapons, not for browsing, and then he's surprised when he leaves. Then in the distance, a skeleton army arrives, where we meet the commander of the skeletons, Samukai. The skeleton army finds a map in the blacksmith shop and then takes Nia as a hostage because this is classic Ninjago after all.
Lord Garmadon says take the girl!
Wu then explains that they were after the map for the 4 golden weapons, which was given to Kai's father by the first Spinjitzu master, and that's not Ray. Anyway, the first Spinjitzu master had 2 sons, Wu and the king of the underworld, Lord Garmadon, who was cast into the underworld after trying to take control of the golden weapons, and says that Kai has been chosen to become a ninja and harness the power of fire. With not much to lose to get Nia back, Kai trains under Sensei Wu. Well, tries to.
Fail. Fail. Oh, so fail.
Then we meet the other 3 ninja, who together have all the unique traits that set them apart. Kai, the hothead, Cole,
Wait a minute. I'm still black.
the tough guy, who ain't afraid of nothing,
Except for dragons.
Dragons aren't from this world, Zane. I said in this world.
Zane, the weird one, also gifted with a 6th sense, which I do not think is even canon anymore. Honestly, it's okay though, because I honestly just kind of plain forgot about it because it didn't really do much except state the obvious.
My early assessment tells me this must be Garmadon's doing. My early assessment tells me.
Still, it's a weirdly cool but forgotten trait that Zane used to have, and I kind of miss it a little bit.
I sense this one takes things a little too seriously.
You too have the gift?
He's just making a joke, Zane. Remember what we talked about? Your sense of humor, huh?
Yes, it was a joke. Ha ha.
Then of course, we have Jay, the funny creep nobody invited.
We're saving a girl?
Is she hot?
Jay?
Yeah, gotta get this out of the way, but they really characterize Jay really bad in this pilot. Not his humor side, that's totally fine, and it can be quite funny.
Whatcha! 2 points!
And was even the first ninja to learn Spinjitzu. But the other side of his character, the start of his love for Nia, which started fine, was flushed down the toilet with the love triangle from season 3, and then now is actually quite adorable. But the love triangle was not its only growing pains, because the pilot makes Jay out to be a complete creep. This was in the age of shoddingly putting romance in kids media, and to be honest, it was always done in some of the worst ways imaginable. I actually watched Freebirds the other day with some friends of mine for the first time, and yes, it was the movie where they go back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu, and laced into that movie was this romance between Owen Wilson's character and this other character, and every time they were on screen, it was some of the most revolting content I think I have ever seen, because they know literally nothing about each other, yet there were these moments where they would just stare at each other with that lovey-dovey music in the background, and it was just because most of the time the media at the time tries to play romance in a love at first sight trope, where none of them actually tried to develop a relationship, and it blossoms into something more, you know, like a relationship is. But even with how much I hate that trope, at least most of the time, the character actually sees the person. You know, it's in the name, love at first sight, but yet Jay wants Nia at the mere mention of a woman, so it's more of a love at first mention? I'm surprised Kai doesn't try to slap him right there. I would've. Anyway, despite that, even though there's not much here, the pilot really showed there was something here. The ninja felt good with each other, even if Jay, Cole, and Zane doesn't have very much screen time, even if the characters are very one-dimensional. They are fun and written well together, and the voice actors just nailed it right out of the ballpark. None of these characters sound too different from how they sound now, other than, I guess, Jay sounding a little bit more nasally, but I don't know, it's kind of funny. Paul Dobson's Sensei Wu, on the other hand, is a bit different, however. It doesn't sound completely off, well, except for at the very end, where I think he got a frog in his throat.
Father would not want you to do this, brother.
But I don't know how to describe it, but it sounds as if his voice changes every few minutes. 1 second, it sounds way higher pitched, maybe trying to make it sound older, then sometimes it sounds normal, and then other times it sounds like, well, the Wu that got excited over a Ferris wheel in Season 1. But Garmadon sounds perfect, even sounding a lot more evil, especially when he's in his shadow form, and I kinda enjoy it. I understand why they toned down his evilness in his voice in Seasons 1 and 2, because he was portrayed a bit more sympathetic, but honestly, this kinda makes me wish we got to see more of this Garmadon in Season 1, but at least they brought it back a little bit in Season 8 when they brought back Garmadon, and it was honestly better for it, since that version of Garmadon is supposed to be just pure evil. But still, even here, when Garmadon does his tick-tock line for Kai, it sounds awesome. One thing I noticed was a detail that's only in this pilot, where when the ninja have their mask down, it sounds muffled. It's a cool little detail, but I can understand why they dropped it, as sometimes it can be kinda hard to tell what they're trying to say, or just makes the voice sounds low quality, and probably just added an unnecessary step to the editing workflow. The animation work, I think, actually holds up pretty well. Looks pretty in line with the animations from Seasons 1 and 2, seeming like they gave this pilot a pretty decent budget, which is great in hindsight, given that these pilots should age pretty well, to where it feels like it's on the same level as the first 2 seasons, meaning it has pretty much the same animation errors. I really love Samukai's giant mouth. It's a very standout feature since all the characters have 2D mouths. Meanwhile, Samukai just has this chomper mouth that could swallow Elon Musk's ego. I also think Spinjitzu looks really good in the pilot. Spinjitzu in Season 1 or 2 looks fine, but just a little flat and somewhat desaturated. Meanwhile, I feel that Spinjitzu in this pilot was very colorful and had a lot more of the element to their Spinjitzu. When Cole does Spinjitzu, it looks like an Earth Ninja doing it. I think Jay's looks the best, of course, with the added lightning effects, plus I think the blue just looks really good. A pretty cool effect that didn't make it into the main show was putting this glow effect on the golden weapons. I do enjoy it as it puts a lot of emphasis on them and made them feel as important as they are. This was probably just something they could do for the pilot since it was so short. They really needed the visual focus in this pilot because these 2 episodes don't really focus on them enough. I mean, the Scythe of Quakes gets a lot of attention, but the Shurikens of Ice and the Nunchucks of Lightning are found in what basically feels like an extended Family Guy cutaway gag. Oh my god, Lois, I have more crap in my pants than the time I went up to get the Nunchucks of Lightning. The Sword of Fire gets a decent amount of attention, but even then, I feel like it's less than the Scythe. Kinda a rough ending to the pilots too, because you would expect an ending where the ninjas each get to use their signature golden weapon for the climax, but they don't. Instead, Wu takes the Sword of Fire to the underworld and gets into a battle with Samukai, and then he just explodes, revealing it was all part of Garmadon's plan to escape the underworld. What a plot twist! But at least we get to see the ninja perform the Tornado of Creation after taming the Guardian Dragons, after they realized they were just trying to protect the weapons.
You guys go on ahead. There's not enough room for all of us on that thing.
He looked genuinely so offended by that. But the tornado of creation, which paired with the score, was really hype. I feel that the tornado of creation doesn't really work like how they did it in the seasons after this, as the ninja did the tornado of creation 2 times after in season 1, and to be honest, it's a little boring. Tornado of creation has felt its best as this last resort, this big moment, such as how they brought it back in March of the Oni. Say what you will about that season, but that tornado of creation scene was awesome, even if they didn't really do anything but just kind of sit there, but it was still really cool, dang it. It works well in the pilot as an introduction to it, even used to create this cool Ferris wheel. Surprised they didn't make this into a set. I think it'd be cool as a legacy set, even if it was a very cheap small set. Then finally, the ninja make it home from the underworld. Jay gets a hug from Nia, which we the audience are supposed to feel good about, I guess. Then after uniting the weapons that this whole pilot has been about trying to avoid, are we sure we can trust these guys? The pilot comes to a close, and the rest is history. The series would start over again in season 1 in December in Canada later that year, then make its way to the US in January of 2012, and everything after that has led up to now. The series has been running for a full 15 years now, and through all of its evolutions and reinventions, it's been a great 15 years. I can't thank this franchise enough for what it has done for me, not just creating cherished memories for me over this silly Lego show made to just sell toys, but also inspiring me to become who I am now. I genuinely don't think I'd be the same person I am today without Ninjago, and I mean, of course, this channel wouldn't exist without it, and I wouldn't be able to see all of you and talk about everything I do and don't like about this franchise. That just means a lot to me. I've actually had some pretty concrete evidence of not only Lego, but the creators of Ninjago actually have watched my content, which is absolutely terrifying to me. I don't know the extent of how many people on the Ninjago team have seen my content or if there's any chance of them watching this one, but if you happen to be, whether you've been with the franchise since the start, have retired from the franchise, or are a new fresh face that's turning Ninjago into this exciting new step that is Dragons Rising, thank you. Thank you so much for all you've done to make Ninjago exactly what it is right now. Thank you for creating a franchise that has somehow managed to last 15 years, and hopefully it'll last till its 20th, and its 25th, and its 30th, however long, until the series decides to hopefully end on the best note possible, or the sun burns out. But what are your thoughts on Ninjago's pilot? Has it aged as well as you remember? And what do you think about Ninjago in its current day? Let me know down in the comments below. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.